Hi guys, and welcome to Holistic Life with Kristen. We all know that prices are through the roof right now, and the economy is not really looking up at the moment. So today I wanted to talk to you about storing your things to increase longevity and also to keep your space clear and clutter-free. So there are a few categories of things that tend to get very out of order. And if you don't store your things properly, you can cause a lot of damage to those things, and that will cause you to have to buy more things. So that doesn't do anyone any favors. So one of the number one things on this list of things that tend to get out of control, and I think a lot of people don't store properly, are shoes. So there are a couple of ways that I have found that I am able to store my shoes and keep them organized, keep them out of my way, and most importantly, keep them from getting smashed and damaged or lost, dusty under the bed or whatever it is. So one of the ways that I have successfully stored shoes is something like this to hang your shoes on the back of a door. I will provide the link in the description. One of those over-the-door storage racks where you can put one shoe per pocket. And the number one thing to keep in mind with this type of storage is that only put one shoe per pocket. I know it's very tempting, especially with sandals, to like cram two shoes, both shoes in one pocket. But over time, this has a tendency to flatten, smash, damage your sandals and will really ruin the appearance of those shoes. So if you want to get the maximum amount of use out of your shoes, I recommend only putting one shoe per pocket. And other than that, if you have a really nice pair of shoes or a pair of shoes that won't fit in those pockets, a pair of boots, for instance, I have a pair of steel-toed boots. So those do not store well in the pockets, and I also don't keep those on my shoe rack because I don't use those every day. That's a special use type of shoe. So I actually keep that in a shoe storage box in my closet on the top shelf where I can get to it if I need to. They are not going to get smashed and damaged because I don't want to have to buy another pair of those. I want to make those last me. I do not want to spend money again on another pair of steel-toed boots. So I take a lot of care to make sure that I'm storing those in a way that they're not going to get smashed and damaged, and they are going to last me. And they literally, I've worn them only a couple of times, but when I need them, I need to have them. And I don't want to be searching for those. I don't want to pull them out and they're all damaged. I don't want to have to buy another pair. One-time investment, and hopefully I will not have to buy another pair of steel-toed boots. Maybe never, because I just don't wear them often enough, but when you need it, you need to have it. So one of my favorite ways, and the way that I store most of my shoes, my everyday shoes, is on a shoe rack. I have this shoe rack right behind my door in my bedroom, and it has all of the shoes that I wear on a daily basis. It has my tennis shoes, it has my sandals, it has my flip-flops, whatever I wear, all of my shoes that I wear basically on an everyday basis, those are sitting right here on my rack, so that when I need a pair of shoes, I can just go easily pick up what I need. They do not get smashed, they do not get damaged, and that will help me keep my shoes in good shape for years to come, so that I don't need to keep buying more shoes, because you know how it is. Once they start looking a little raggedy, you're going to end up throwing them away, you're going to end up replacing them, and that costs money. So it's better to store them in such a way that you can get some life out of them. Now, when it comes to storing your stuff, this is basically all of your stuff, your shoes, your bags, your clothes. I have found the most useful way to store things is to not exceed the maximum storage space of wherever you are living and whatever storage space that you have set up for that thing. So, my master closet, for instance, I like to keep, not too many clothes that it cannot fit in there. In order to avoid clutter, I find it really useful to make sure that the amount of stuff fits easily into the space that you have to store it. If you have more stuff than what can logically fit in any space that you have to store it, it's going to cause clutter and it's going to be a problem. So So for instance, this drawer behind me, it is meant to hold my scarves, and I have some jewelry in this middle compartment, and my socks and undergarments are in on the other side. And then down here are our nighties and plain t-shirts and all of my pants. So I need to make sure that I don't have more pants than what can fit into this space, because if I do, it's just going to turn into a mess. So I kind of think about all of my things in terms of how much space I have, and then I make sure that what I'm buying does not exceed the space I have to store it. So if I don't have any more space, I don't buy any more things. And the crazy thing is, and I was just having this conversation the other day with someone in my house, my grandmother had tiny little closets. Her house was from the early 1900s, and her closet space, all of her closets added together, her all of her bedrooms, the closet that was in the hallway, all of the space she had combined was smaller, or definitely not larger than my master closet. So I have a lot of closet space, and I have a lot of storage space in this house comparatively. So I don't know, we just own so many things these days. It's, I don't know if it's we have more disposable income. Things are just, all the cheap stuff coming from China. I don't know what the reasons, there's that's a whole nother video subject all on its own, because there's many things that contribute to this. It's just so easy to spend money nowadays. If you're on Amazon, just shop, 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 and then the next thing you know, your closet is overflowing and you have a clutter problem, you have a spending problem, you have, it's just crazy. It can get out of control really fast. Other than shoes, jewelry is another really big one because it is such an investment. You have a lot of money in your jewelry, and if you don't store them properly, where you can have some separation, you will damage your jewelry. My wedding ring is very expensive, so I store it like this. I love this little ring holder. It's beautiful and it's functional to keep my ring safe. I'll link it in the description. Another thing that it's important to store properly, if you ask me, are your handbags and your purses. And this is because purses can easily get damaged. They get smushed, they no longer look good, and then you end up trying to throw them away. And, they're expensive. Even a cheaper purse is quite expensive. Most purses are at least $30 to $40 each for a reasonably decent handbag. And then if you don't store those properly, then they get damaged, and then you're going to end up replacing them with another bag. So it's sort of a vicious cycle. So I find it best to really be careful on how I store those. So I have two ways that I like to store handbags. I have one bag that was a gift from my friend's mom, and it's from China, and I really love that bag, and I take very good care of it. So it has its own place on the top of my shelf where it cannot get damaged, could not get smashed, could not get damaged by my cat, whatever the situation might be. It's up by itself, like boutique style storage for that. And of course, a lot of us don't have the storage space to do like boutique style storage for all of our handbags. But other than that purse, the rest of my purses they're either hanging by the door. I have a couple of bags that I use all the time that's just hanging by the door, so that when I leave the house, I can just grab one of those and go. And then the other few bags that I have that I use from time to time, I don't use them on a day-to-day basis. I hang them on hooks on the back of the door. So I have a hook, and then I can hang those so that they don't get smushed and they don't get lost and they don't get damaged. Another category of things that is just so easy to damage are books. And this is because, some of them are hardcover books, but even then you don't want to get them all scuffed up. Personally, if I buy a book, it's because I collect those books, like, the Harry Potter books or series that I read, and I like to collect and keep a hard copy of. And those books I want to keep in good condition so that later on I can pass those down, maybe to my nephews or someone, or maybe even resell those later on down the line after I'm done using them. But in any case, I have spent good money on my books, and I would like to keep those in tip-top shape. So the one way that I find to do this is to not have them just laying all over the place. It's best to have a designated bookshelf so that you have a space to keep those books contained safely so that they're not getting bumped and knocked off and damaged. So besides shoes and purses and books, because those are the three categories of things that are very expensive, and I do not want to have to replace those before I got my use out of them. And last but not least, although those are the three primary categories, the one thing that is worth mentioning in this particular video are clothes. Now, clothes are fortunately very forgiving. It's difficult to really damage your clothing, but your clothing can get out of hand in a hurry because you just have so much of it. I don't know what it is about clothes in this day and age, but it just seems like we have too many of them. With all of this fast fashion, things are just so cheap, and we tend to buy too much of things. Or at least most of us do. So, in terms of clothes, as of late, I have tried my best to buy higher quality items that are going to last and avoid the fast fashion craze that seems to be taking over the world right now. Because those fast fashions, they just don't last. And then they end up in the back of your closet, or, you end up throwing them away or donating them. A lot of extra garbage, not good for the environment. It's definitely not good for your wallet. I try to think a little bit more about any item that I bring into my wardrobe to make sure that it's something that's going to serve me long term. And then again, I like to work within the parameters of my drawers, within the parameters of my closet space, so that I don't have things just flowing over everywhere and creating a mess for me to deal with. In terms of taking care of your clothing, I prefer to be just, careful about the detergents and other laundry products that I use, that they are high quality. And usually the things that are out of season, I will often store in open bins like this so that I can pull it out and have access to it whenever I need it. But things that are just not in season, just to get it out of my way, but I can still pull it out and grab something out of there if we're kind of in between seasons. And then sometimes also, if something is not quite ready to wash, I try to minimize the amount of washing. Obviously, you want your clothes to be clean, but not everything needs to be washed every single time that you use it. It depends on what it is. So minimizing washes can also help increase the longevity of your clothing. I firmly believe in the Marie Kondo style of folding clothes, because once you do that in your chest of drawers, if you, I don't do it for my socks, I don't get that meticulous, but everything else, all of my shirts, nighties, pants, I do fold it that style because it just keeps the drawer from getting unruly. And then you can very easily just open the drawer and see everything that you have in it at a glance. Okay guys, so I hope you've gotten some value out of today's video. I hope it's made you think about, some of your stuff and how, it might be how you can maybe make some changes to the way you're storing your stuff with the thought of keeping them in good working order for years to come in mind, so that you can avoid damaging your things, so that you can get the maximum longevity out of your stuff and avoid having to spend unnecessarily on new stuff, and to kind of end that cycle, and to think about taking better care of your things, so to avoid excessive spending in an economy like this where every penny counts. At least you're not spending unnecessarily on extra items. Okay guys, have a wonderful day, and I will see you all on my next video.